There was one hill that I actually had to go around because there's a stoplight at the bottom of the hill, and cars were trying to go, but there was so much ice that they were just...
I hope you start the podcast with that.
Once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Goody Two-Shoes. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires we call the internets is Joe Crazy Rider. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm telling you, the world's treating me like a baby treats a diaper.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and you're wearing milk-bone underwear?
Pretty much.
Well, fill us in.
No. We got to back up a second here. Because, we're getting the freaking later. What's with the Goody Two-Shoes label? What happened to old Uncle Rat Bastard?
I've given up.
I don't know if I approve of this.
I've given up. You guys are just, every episode, you just beat me over the head that I'm a nice person. You beat me over the head that I'm a Goody Two-Shoes. You never let up. You never let up.
I'm sorry. I cannot be the only Rat Bastard on the show.
Well, sadly, for Thanksgiving, I went out to the Minnesota's largest candy store. They had no Rat Bastard root beer.
I heard.
They had Coca-Cola.
Ooh, that's good.
They had what's the red stuff? Captain Jack's red pirate drink.
Ooh.
They had Frosty root beer, which I vaguely remember as a child. And I bought 2 bottles of it and was not impressed, so I can see why they went away.
I bought 2 bottles of baking soda last time I'm there. Notice I have not opened them yet.
Oh, okay. I took pictures of all the bacon stuff, including the microwavable pork rinds, which frightened me. But no Rat Bastard root beer, so maybe I need a refill. I don't know, but I am tired of every week you guys go on and on about how I'm a Goody Two-Shoes. Maybe it's time for me to accept it. Maybe it's time to just surrender.
Well, I got to tell you, I am looking through Google's image, and I cannot find any pictures of a Rat Bastard and a Goody Two-Shoes. So until I find one, you're going to have to remain a Rat Bastard. That's just that's bottom line. You may be Goody Two-Shoes to the rest of the world, but you'll always be a Rat Bastard to me.
Joe, you have no idea how happy that makes me.
Oh, damn it. No, I'm turning into a Goody Two-Shoes. That's it. Taking my shoes off. There, I'm good. Now I'm barefoot.
So what we just had Thanksgiving.
We did. And we're suffering through our first snowstorm, even as we
pod. My God, I nearly died twice.
Well, I tried my best.
I know. The car wants me dead.
Every time you're turning around, you're shoving it in the garage. How'd you feel if whoever's with you shoves you to the doctor every 2 weeks?
I don't have a garage. There is no garage here at the Solitaire Rose compound.
Maybe that's why the car is trying to kill you.
No, the car is trying to kill me because it's winter in Minnesota, and for some reason I had to drive on some back roads because I'm a Goody Two-Shoes. And
that and the freeways were probably gridlocked.
No, once I got on the freeways, everything was fine. But this morning, on my way to work, I was driving up, and the first stoplight of the day, I had to be to work early. Driving along, and I put my foot on the brakes, and the car just continues to go. Does it? I have the anti-lock brakes, so when you push on the brakes, you kind of get that where it stops and starts. That hubba 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 hubba. Wasn't enough, man. Just light went red.
I know in the next solo, Joe, I'm going to have to use that sound effect somehow. Hubba hubba.
And just light turned red, I just sail right through it. Foot on the brake, 20 miles an hour, just right through the intersection. All I'm thinking is, I'm so glad nobody's in a real hurry at 6:20 in the morning. And then on the way home, I took one of my coworkers, drove her home, and we get to a stop sign because we're on some kind of not really back roads, but they're less traveled roads. And you ever put your foot on the brake and you kind of slow down, but you don't really stop, and you cruise through the stoplight at about 5 miles an hour and you can't stop, and then you turn.
Mm-hmm.
You look to the left and you see cars coming at you, and all you could think is, I'm going to die now, and it will be in slow motion. But no, they stopped.
To die now.
They stopped and let me go.
Meow.
So I'm glad I'm home. I'm glad I'm alive. Glad the car did not get destroyed. And you had today off, so you probably weren't out in this craziness.
Yeah, I got to admit, even Holly had half a day. They started at 11, so at 6:20 I was still safe and snug inside my bed, and I got the whole bed.
Snafe and snug.
Yeah, because I got the whole safe and snug bed because Chris had gotten up to get ready for work. So, and I did get up at about 9:30. Well, I woke up at 9:30, but I didn't get up till 10 because I was trying to decide, do I want to sleep for a half hour or do I just want to stay awake? So I had a rough morning myself.
And I had a long day. I was at work for 11 hours today, and I'll be at work for 11 hours tomorrow. This is at the part-time job. I'm sorry, at the full-time job. And when we get to freaking, remind me to bitch about that job.
Bitch at freaking.
Because I did not have time to do a freaking or geeking, so when we get to that, that'll be improv.
Why be any different than me?
Because I'm the professional here. None of this has anything to do with comics. You know, last week was a big event, Joe.
Oh, I didn't get my box day yet. I'm wondering if it's going to show up tomorrow because with all the snow we're getting. Actually, we're not getting much snow at all. I mean, compared to the rest of the country getting hammered with ice and rain and crap like that, we're getting, they say maybe in a 48-hour period, we're getting, 6 to 9 inches of snow?
Yeah,
we're like right on the edge of it.
And here in beautiful, bucolic Chaska, we don't even have an inch, and it's been snowing pretty much all day. Now, where I work, there was, a couple inches on the ground. But it's just slick.
Yeah, we had the same thing.
Slick.
Wet, heavy snow by noon or so. It was pretty much just settled. If I shoveled, so the sidewalks were wet, but they weren't icy. The roads were sloppy slush. Main travel roads were pretty much clear. Basically, stock up on windshield wiper fluid.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're worried about our resident Houston Jen because we haven't heard hide nor hair of her since the snow started.
I think she's hiding.
I don't know. She sent a few panicked Facebook things, and I was going to give her all the advice on how to survive a snowstorm and what to do in it, but I guess I'll just save that for one of the other snowstorms we'll get.
And you're talking about when you mentioned it was snow, and she said, Joe, am I going to die?
Yes.
Okay.
And she mentioned it twice, but then some of my other friends came in and said, in Minnesota? No.
And let's remember, I have given her an order.
And she probably won't listen to you.
No. She'll listen to it because she's not allowed to die before I am. Neither are you. Neither of you are allowed to die before I am.
Okay, can I have your comics when you go? I'll split it with Mike.
Mike actually knows how to sell them.
Okay, good. If he needs help, he can always give me a yell. Happy, joy. At 2:50 p.m., my box arrived at the FedEx location, which means it'll probably be delivered tomorrow.
Cool.
Woohoo!
Now, the only thing my son is not allowed to sell, although I may expand that to some of the other hardcovers, is he is not allowed to sell the EC sets.
What's he going to do with them?
Those are to be handed down generation to generation, and if he has no children, it goes to one of his cousins to be handed down generation to generation, because they're on special acid-free paper and blah, 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 and Russ Cochran guarantees that they will not rot or anything for a minimum of 200 years.
Cool.
Lord knows how you collect on that guarantee since he's all out of them. He's not reprinting them. But when they started coming out in 1979, he said this paper is guaranteed to last 250 years.
Neat.
And I made, I've got an impressive hardcover collection.
Yes, he does.
And my next thing I'm going to be working on, if I ever get a job that pays well, is I want to have the complete creepy and eerie hardcovers. And I may go after the Vampirella hardcovers, but the printing on those is just messy because Dynamite doesn't seem to keep them in print, and then they'll reprint some of them randomly, and maybe I should just wait until they go to another publisher who will actually treat them well.
Treat me right. It's a little thing, but I do miss singing during the podcast.
Well, you can do it now.
I know.
Because Jin's hiding from the snow. I think she's buried under blankets and dreaming of cactuses and what cowboy hats.
Yeah.
And what else do they have in Texas?
Just not as much fun.
Rattlesnakes and tumbleweeds and alamos and I don't know what they have in Texas. I've only been there twice. Well, I know one thing they have in Texas, and that's racists. Have I told the story of being confronted with frightening racism the first time I went to Houston?
No.
Okay, I'll tell this story, and then we're going to get into comics. So I fly down to Houston to meet Jin in person for reals. And we hit it off. We have a wonderful time. And we've been friends since then, off and on, kind of, whatever. And on the way back, I get one of the shuttle buses because I'm in a hotel and I need to get to the airport that's on the other side of Houston. So I get in the shuttle bus, and there are a bunch of us in the shuttle bus, and there are 2 airports in Houston. And so we go to the first airport, and pretty much everybody gets off but me. I'm going to the other airport. I don't know why I went to that airport, but it was, it was the 90s. None of us knew anything about flying. The internet was new. We were using Priceline because William Shatner told us to. And as we're driving, the person driving the thing says, "So, where are you from?" And I go, "Well, I'm from Minneapolis." "Oh, you've been to Houston before?" "Nope, never been." "Why'd you come here?" "Well, I met a friend online, and we decided we wanted to meet each other in person, and so I've spent the weekend here and had a wonderful time." He says, "Oh, good. I like people from the Midwest. I really hate driving people from Jew York." Now, Joe, this is Houston. What do we know about Houston?
It's full of chemical factories.
Everybody there has weaponry.
Chemicals, weapons.
I don't know if this guy's got a gun or not, so I keep my mouth shut and nod quietly as he spends the next 10 minutes complaining about the Jews. I don't think I've ever been in a car where someone is carrying on a conversation and I have less to contribute. I'm just keeping my mouth shut and nodding. Trying hard not to make eye contact. So, yeah. But that's not why we're here.
No.
We're here to talk about comics.
We are?
Yes.
Well, it's a good thing I got a bunch around me then.
A great big comic event happened over the weekend.
Oh, and I had to work.
Oh, I'm sorry, not the weekend. Last week.
Oh, and I was
on
working.
Wednesday.
Darn it, I was at work. Work. That's all I ever do.
Gosh, you're stealing my gimmick.
Work. Well, you've stolen plenty of mine.
Yeah, that's true. We do share.
Yes.
Except I could still read Deathmate. He's gonna puke. He's gonna
Nobody really wants to hear you sing.
I don't use my real singing voice because it's not funny. So, Dark Knight 3, The Master Race #1 came out last week, with 47 different retailer covers.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 9 different other covers. And now you went to the shop. Did all 3 of the versions come out?
I couldn't tell you. I saw the regular cover. I picked up one of the variants. They had 4 variants there. Now, the source is unique because what they do is they try to put as many variants as they can into their customers' hands. And they don't care if the customers put them back because they know somebody else will snag them. The one I did see that was unique, they had the Jim Lee variant, which was like 1 in 1,000 or something. I think might have been 1 in 500, which gives you an idea how many they ordered. They were asking $500 for it, and I haven't gone on eBay to see. Did not see the collector version. That's the one I ordered it anyways. So I did pick up a copy. I'm not sure what it is. It's got both Dark Knight and Robin jumping off it. Jeff, it looks like Jeff something, but I can't tell from the writing on it here.
Now, is that the one that's the $12.95 where the story is all the same size and it's like a trade paperback? Or
nope.
Okay.
Did not see that.
Did that
one
come out, or is that coming out later?
Nobody knew because basically the comic guys weren't working, so nobody knew. But let me do a look on our ever favorite Dark Knight 3. Oops, I don't know if I should put 3s or I's. I know, I'll put Master Race. These kids are big.
We find out why it's called Master Race, and no, it's not Nazis. Although everybody forgets, because they were going, oh, they're putting in Nazi imagery and blah, blah, blah. Everybody forgets in the original Dark Knight, the woman who was bare-breasted except for swastikas on her breasts as one of the mutants.
I would never forget that. I do not see. I see some of the variants. A lot of variants, obviously. Some of the shop variants.
Now, did the source have a shop variant?
They did not.
Okay.
Which I would have picked up had they had it, but.
Which is weird that they probably didn't order enough. I wonder how many you had to order.
And the other thing too is that was more probably Nick's thing. I don't know if the current guy necessarily cares or realizes. One thing I always told the guys, you really should put some of those up on eBay because not everybody can get to the source to buy it. And there are people around the world that would buy the variant, even though they probably will never visit the source. Apparently the variant I got is the 1 in 10 Thompson variant. So,
okay.
Jill Thompson.
Ooh, Jill Thompson.
Ooh, that's a good one.
She could get that done, but she can't do Beasts of Burden.
Hell no. So,
then again, BC probably pays a little better.
I am going to flip a filter on this because I am curious as to what is the highest priced Dark Knight variant. And here they have a Jim Lee variant. It's 1 in 500 for $600, and the source was asking $500 for there. So they had one. There's a black and white version. Let's see. Some people, now I see it. It's slowly dropping. $450, $300, $395, $379, $201 in actual bidding. And after that, then it breaks down into some of the other variants. So I really have no clue how many variants they did.
Now, does the source did they have like a big section of them?
It took up an entire rack. Now, if you remember, they had the racks that face up so you can see the whole cover, and then they go the entire length of the store, about 5 or 6 deep, not counting above it. This took up like an entire rack. So they had quite a few of them. Lord knows how many they had last Wednesday, but they went long and hard on this one, and they're going to have them for a while.
I'll be very interested to see how many are ordered because I'm looking at Marvel's numbers, and the new number ones, like Iron Man number 1 was let's see, $279,000. Spider-Man #1 was $245,000. Spider-Gwen #1 was $197,000. Really, $197,000 for Spider-Gwen? That's. Then again, the previous Spider-Gwen #1 sold $278,000. But I'm guessing at least $500,000.
I could see that if hang on, I'm just going to take off some of the things. I want to see how many total we got on
Joe,
eBay.
please leave your things on.
I can't help it.
The boy
right
can't
now,
help
there are
it.
only
The boy
598 listings on eBay for this Dark Knight. I do not see any of the collector
Although, then again,
ones.
it just came out 5 days ago.
Well, yeah, but the variants would jump on, and you don't know how fast they've been selling either.
Yeah.
So let's take a. Well, I'll keep popping around it. If I see anything unusual, a couple of
And you and I
remarks of the
already
blend
talked about
variants.
how we would order it when they first talked about it. But now that it's out, I have read it. Have you read it?
I have not. Would you, tell you what, pause this here podcast. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. I read it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. It took a couple hours there, but.
I didn't pause the podcast.
Well, why not? Now you're breaking kayfabe.
Damn right.
Fun? I mean.
Everybody else gets to break kayfabe. I'm going to do it once in a while.
That's your Christmas present.
Well, it's probably the best one I'll be getting.
Well, considering there's Festivus crap coming up, you're lucky we indulge you on that. But.
Well, and if you have your grievances, go ahead, email them.
Yes.
Call the phone line. Send us a Facebook message. Come by the house, knock on the door, slip it under the door. I sure as hell I'm not going to open it because I don't like people. But yeah, just slip it under the door in an envelope. We want your Festivus grievances.
No, Cory wants your Festivus grievances.
It's my show. I say we. It's the royal we. So, Joe, your opinion.
One warning. Do not read the mini comic that's inside the middle of it before you read the rest of the issue. That's the only warning I can give you because I read it. The mini comic gives away a couple things that probably would have been more shocking had I not read it. With that in mind, I enjoyed the living bejesus out of this much, much more than I really thought I would. The pacing was pretty good. It took me a while to get going with it. The characters are much more recognizable than they were in Dark Knight 2. I think they're going a little more serious. I remember what Dark Knight 2 I was having trouble with until you told me just read it like it's a parody. And then it was like, oh, okay, that makes better sense. So I actually, for the first issue, I enjoyed it pretty well. I'm glad I did pick it up in time for the podcast. See the things I do for the podcast, risking life and limb, going cross country. I wasn't going to drop 500 on the Jim Lee variant, but I will pick up the $8.99 Jill Thompson variant just to read it, knowing that tomorrow with Box Day I have my regular ones coming. I don't know, did not see any collector edition because I don't see. Actually, let me put that in. I don't see him on Facebook. I don't see him on eBay. I've been going through a couple pages here. I don't think it shipped. I thought it was supposed to ship the same time.
Oh, I don't know.
What did you think of it?
My review is going to be longer than yours. First,
because I just like to read things. You know, if I enjoy reading it, you got me.
There were things that I did like about it. I think it pales in comparison to Dark Knight.
Oh, absolutely. That was
a lot
such
of ways
a groundbreaking, shattering experience. He could go up to Dark Knight 20, and not that I'm advocating that, but it's never going to be as crazy as that first one.
First off, the art, while it was good, it felt like it just stole a couple stylistic tricks from Dark Knight and then filtered them through the artist's regular way of drawing, which I can understand. But if you go back to the original Dark Knight, whenever he used full page or 2-page spreads, they were rare and they were a big deal. There were a lot of full page spreads in this. There was a lot of, there was a lot of that. The thing I liked about Dark Knight and Dark Knight 2 was Miller was trying new things. He was trying new storytelling styles. This did not break any ground. There was nothing new here. The second was that the pace was incredibly slow compared to the other Dark Knight books. Joe, think back to Dark Knight #1. In that first issue, you had that Batman had retired. He'd been gone for 10 years. He comes back. You have the invasion of the mutants. You have his battle with the mutants. You have all the stuff that goes on. You've created this world.
That's the first issue.
And it completes the battle with the mutants at the end of the first issue.
Oh, wasn't it Two-Face?
No, because it was also Joker came back. Was it Two-Face in the second issue?
I thought he was in the first.
But I know that the first issue, if you read the first issue of Dark Knight, the first Dark Knight, it's complete in and of itself. There's a lot more, but it's complete. It's a complete story. This was the first chapter of a book.
Good Lord, there's 53 Master Race variant covers.
The other thing was that while there were some nods to a little bit of innovation, the texting as a storytelling device in the first few pages, but it really felt like more of an Elseworlds than an event. Because Dark Knight 1 was an event. Dark Knight 2, even though a lot of people didn't like it, it was an event. This just seems like, okay, it's an Elseworlds. And yes, they did spoil the ending of it on TV and that's one of the things I don't grasp. It's like, why are you going to spoil the ending to this for TV and newspapers and stuff when the only people who are really going to care about this are comic book fans?
Yes, I feel lucky because I didn't see any of that.
They actually spoiled it on Stephen Colbert.
Shame on you, Steve.
And then the mini comic by Miller showed why Frank Miller is a legend. His art, I know that there are some people who do not like his new art style, but it was bold, it was slashing, it felt like he was punching you in the face with his story. And he made the Atom interesting, which no one has done since 1984 when Jan Strand and Gil Kane did that Sword of the Atom miniseries. But in his mini-comic, he told a better story in a more innovative way than the main people who did the main book. And it made that stuff pale by comparison. To me, it was like reading, it would be like reading Kirby and then some 14-year-old who really liked Kirby doing another story and putting them in the same book. It was too jarring for me. Now, I'm interested in where the story goes because for all the people who complained about Dark Knight 2, they actually pick up the threads from Dark Knight 2.
So if you haven't read it, read it, and then you'll know what's going on. Well, you'll know the characters anyways.
I did like the Wonder Woman sequence. And I thought the fact that they spent so much time on it was interesting. The other thing about Dark Knight 3 is this is a female-centric book. Your characters, all of your main characters are female, Joe. Think about that.
Hey, now.
Go back to Dark Knight 1. You probably can't even think of a female character that had any sort of impact other than new Commissioner Yinden.
Well, and Robin.
In this, well, okay, I forgot about that.
Because you remember Frank Miller's big thing was when they talked about what's going on with Dark Knight. What about Robin? Oh yeah, Robin will be in there. She's white. And of course, everybody was she. Now I'm gonna give you a little spoiler here because one of the solo Joes coming up in God knows whenever I can find the stuff. We were given copies of Dark Knight, the paperback, to give away on the radio. And I did find the promo I had that let me try this again. In one of the upcoming Solo Joes, I'll talk about the DC Comic giveaway program. Basically, a box of graphic novels just showed up at the radio station I was working at in college. Nobody knew what to do with it, so I kind of took it under my wing to do it, and I had everybody produce something for the various books. Now, for Dark Knight, the big thing was Frank Miller's quote, "Robin's there. She's white." Well, being PC college, especially a liberal place like the U, they had to change it. So instead of, well, let's just say you'll find out what they changed it to when we get the Solo Joe going. But they did not use "she's white." And I tried to explain it to him. I said, no, it's not the white. You're getting upset about the white. It's the she that's different. Robin, for God knows how this long, has been a boy. Now it's a girl, and people are nuts about it. Nope, didn't happen.
Now, despite me saying it is not at that level of Dark Knight, it's still a very good book. I'm still very interested in where it's going, and the Miller mini comic for me was worth it alone.
Now let me ask you. I gave the warning before we started. Did you read the mini comic as you got to it, or did you just go through it?
I knew that the mini comic was meant to be read at the end.
Okay. See, I must have missed that somewhere along the line.
It was in the publicity. I think they should have put it in the book itself, because I'm hearing a lot of people who they were reading along. Oh, there's a mini comic, and they read the mini comic, and then they go back to the main comic. And now I'm one of those people who reads a lot of stuff online, although I go out of my way to try and avoid spoilers. But I remember in the publicity for it, they said, and Frank Miller's mini comic is meant to be read, blah, 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 blah. And it's the same crap that DC does all the time. They think because they put it out publicly in press releases that everybody knows it. It's like when they do their crossovers. It's not, to read the story, here are the books you need to buy. It's, we put the list up online of all the crossovers, so just go online and blah, blah, blah. Or, no, we don't have a letters pages, but we've got, this online. Go online and read. 5 years from now, all that online stuff's going to be gone.
And I'm curious to see when the collected comes out, how it's going to be. We'll find out as soon as I get it, probably next month now, since it's obviously not in this box coming up.
And I'm wondering if the collected, when they put it in a trade paperback, it'll be, all right, here's the main, here's the mini, here's the main, here's the mini, boom, 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 boom. The other thing that kind of is thrown me for a loop is Miller's interviews, where he's talking about how he's already working on Dark Knight 4, and he's kind of saying that he didn't have much to do with 3. And I'm wondering if that's because he kind of created the plot and handed it off, or he's not happy. I don't know what it is, but I thought that was really weird of him when they would ask him stuff about 3, and he'd go, I don't know. That, Azzarello's doing that. It's, well, Frank, you're doing mini comics that tie into it, and all the publicity has said that it's your story, and they're just, whatever. We don't know. Don't know the politics. Don't want to know.
As I'm digging through, if you're interested, you could get a signed comic shop placeholder that says Dark Knight number 3 is here, signed by Frank Miller. It's actually from the 1986 series, but I thought that was kind of cool. Comic Book Legal Defense Fund does have their own copy as one of the variants, but I don't think they have it in their shop. I think it was one of those you had to order, and then they must split the proceeds with them or something. I don't know. We just don't know. But it's a Paul Pope variant, which is actually pretty cool. It's got the Joker on it.
So I am rating it as a buy, although you probably want to wait till it's a trade because, let's face it, it's going to be collected in books.
Screw you. Go out and buy it now. There'll be plenty of them around.
There'll be tons of this damn
Tons of
book.
these things. Like I said, I bought the variant just because. Why not?
And I wanted to talk about kind of the history of Batman, doing it kind of big picture.
Big picture.
Because we really haven't done a good history episode in a while.
No, we haven't.
And so I'm going to go through the different eras of Batman.
The errors? Oh, there was a lot of them. Bat Mite, Bat Horse, Bat Dog. You just put a mask on the dog. Ugh.
It was not Bat Dog. It was Bat
Hound. Huckleberry Hound, too. Now, there's a crossover we're begging for.
Now, Joe, the Bat Hound of the 90s, did you like that idea?
I don't recall it.
And then who else? There was living in the Batcave was the Bat Hound, and then this kind of deformed helper that Batman had for a while, who just seems to have vanished.
Probably fell down one of those crevices that the cave has, just straight down.
But when Batman started, it was very, very pulp influenced. Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson put together the Batman pitch for DC, because DC, back then it was National, was trying to put together original comics anthologies. They had Detective Comics, and they had failed comic strips that had been shipped to syndicates that had been rejected. And they decided to take those to use it to kind of create that. And then later came Action Comics #1. Or was Action Comics #1 first?
Action was first.
Okay.
So it was 38 and, I had it all up. I think 39 is when Detective...
Is that when
39.
Detective started or when Batman started?
Well, that's when Batman
Detective?
showed up in Detective 27 in 39.
Right.
So Detective started first, I believe, publishing, and then Action was after it.
Yeah, Action was the first superhero book. I believe Detective was the first all-original comics anthology. But Batman was very pulp influenced, especially if you read the real early ones, very much a ripoff of the Shadow and Doc Savage and the Spider and the pulp heroes that, Blood and Thunder, get the bad guys. He had the Zorro origin. His origin's the same as Zorro. Criminals killed his parents and he decides for revenge, which is why later on the movie that they went to see when Batman's mother and father were killed was The Mark of Zorro. Because they wanted to acknowledge, we stole his origin.
Corey, it's time.
Yes.
Throughout the episode, I'm going to give you mini Ask the Strodes, since you seem to know it all anyways.
I don't know it all.
Well, you're going to by the end of this. Number 1, how many criminals did Batman kill in his first year of comic book life between May 39 and May 40th? How many evildoers met their fate at his gloved hands?
I know he used to kill, and he actually carried a gun for a while.
Yeah, that Earth 2 Batman, and what happened is, we'll talk about this as we get forward, but this was later regulated into the Earth 2 Batman. And he did carry a gun. Just take a guess, between 1 and 50.
I'm going to say about 20.
Bingo, you hit it. His first life in comics, he killed 20 characters. He was just a ripoff for the Shadow, and like Shadow, he killed a lot of people. He also slayed 2 vampires, 3 werewolves, and a handful of mutated monsters.
And this is the era that Denny O'Neil says this is the real Batman. Before there was a Robin, when he was when he was just a vigilante. And what people don't seem to remember is this era did not last long.
No, it didn't.
And Robin was brought in early, just like the early Superman era did not last long before DC editorial said, all right, he's not going to fight slumlords and people who own mines anymore. He's going to fight mad scientists. He's going to fight. And with Batman, they kind of did the same thing. They told him, tone down the violence, get rid of the gun. He's just going to beat people up. Robin was brought in because they felt that Batman was not appealing enough to the younger audience. And if you look at those early issues of Detective, he was not the cover feature every issue for a while.
Detective Comics 38, 1940, April is when Robin appeared for the first time. So it wasn't even a year.
That's 11 issues.
Yeah.
There was not a Batman comic at that time either. So this great era of pulpy Batman stories, 11 issues. He fought vampires and werewolves and mutants.
Yep.
And
Now the question is, in Batman 1, which debuted the spring of 1940, readers were invited to join Robin's Regulars. The club motto was, be a Robin regular by being regular. Now, of course...
Eat your brand!
Yes. The club followed a code inspired by the letters of Robin's name: readiness, obedience, brotherhood, industriousness. I can't even say it. Now, what did the N stand for? Did it stand for nerve, niftiness, neatness, nationalism, or nipple play?
I'm going to say neatness.
Nope, nationalism.
Oh,
It
wow!
was 1940, and the Nazis were right around the corner.
However, you have to remember that before Pearl Harbor, Nazis were not a bad guy to a lot of people.
Unless you were Captain America.
Well, and I was going to say, except in comics, where most of the early comic creators were Jewish. And they knew the stories of what was happening in Germany to the Jews. So they wrote stories about how Hitler was a bad guy. And I've talked in the Kirby podcast and on here about, the famous issue, Captain America #1, of him punching Hitler in the face. They got death threats for that. There were places that would not stock that because Hitler, for some people, was considered kind of a good guy because he was fighting the communists. And he didn't much care for Jews. And Americans, there were some people who didn't much care for Jews, as I talked about earlier in the episode. So,
well, and also with all this stuff we're talking about refugees, it keeps coming up. We refused boatloads of refugees and sent them back to Germany, and we all know what happened to them. So, yeah, it was not a popular time to be Jewish.
So Batman in the 40s was kind of sanitized, although they did have a lot of the classic villains. The Joker, who died in his first appearance, then showed up a lot. You had the Penguin, you had other of the kind of the classic Batman villains in the 40s. But much like a lot of comic book superheroes, Batman didn't go to war, but he fought a lot of Nazi spies and things like that. Superman did it somewhat too, but DC didn't go whole hog into the World War II stuff like Timely did or some of the other companies. And Batman kind of settled into being the gadget superhero.
Did you ever see the 1943 Batman serial?
I've seen both of the Batman serials.
Yeah, I've got a CD of one of them. I don't know which one it is.
There's Batman and then Batman and Robin. Batman was 43, and I think Batman and Robin, wasn't it 49?
Well, this is the 43 one where it just says Batman.
Yep.
And he's protecting Gotham City from the evil schemes of Dr. Tito Daka.
Yeah. The thing about a lot of the superhero serials from the 40s is they just used the serial formula. They did not ever use the villains from the comics. They used a lot of, okay, here's an evil scientist, he's got this complicated plot, and it will last 15 episodes. They are competently done for serials. A lot of people, when you watch it, it's hard for people to kind of grasp the fact that serials were done dirt cheap. They gave them next to no money. And what they were, you would go to the movies, there would be a cartoon and a newsreel, and then a chapter of a serial, and then you had your feature, and then you had your short subject, which was usually like they call it a two-reeler. Laurel and Hardy were two-reelers. The Three Stooges were two-reelers. Little Rascals were two-reelers. And then there would be your second movie, which is where the term B-movie came from. And most of the time, the comic books did not get any payback for their characters being used because they saw it as publicity. Martin Goodman actually got mad when the Captain America serial came out and there was no bump in sales. And there are rumors, but no paperwork, that he tried to sue the company that made the cereal, saying that they claimed his sales would go up.
Cereal, I'm getting hungry. I think maybe I'll have a little bit. Batman cereal from the Michael Keane movie. Oh my God, is that stale?
And Joe, if you look, it's got fat in it. That fat has probably gone rancid.
Ugh.
There are squirrels that won't eat that.
I better save myself. Where's my copy of Deathmate? Oh. When Deuce vomiting, read Deathmate. Oh.
He's gonna puke. Now, Batman was popular enough that when the superhero collapse happened in 45 and 46, he maintained both his book and Detective Comics. And into the 50s, they still had the Joker and Penguin, but it was more lighthearted puzzle stories. And there's one story that everybody on the internet knows that's very typical of the Batman stories. Joe, what is the one Joker story from the 50s that every internet nerd has heard of?
Oh, is that the smiling fish?
Nope, that's from...
Or is that the 70s?
That's the 70s. From the 50s. You even post pictures from it every once in a while in your superhero funnies.
Where Joker was pulling a boner.
Yes. Because back in the 50s, a boner meant a mistake. Unlike in the 70s and now. So
yeah,
a lot
of them my daughter
were
talking about guys at school. He popped a boner. Jeez. Nice to know it still means the same when I was a kid.
But that was kind of what the Batman stories were. They were just kind of puzzle stories.
Oh, they don't like the boner I did, huh? Well, wait till they see the boner I do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Joker's going to pull a boner. Don't know if I like the sound of that. Dick, we better get to the Batcave.
The other thing that kind of happened in the 50s was there was the book Seduction of the Innocent, which was a very famous book about how comics are ruining our children. And both Batman and Wonder Woman were pointed out in the book. Batman as being in a homosexual relationship with Robin because they...
Well, hey, let's ask Strode. Which of the following have Batman and Robin never been shown doing in a comic? Waking up in bed together, sharing a sleeping bag while camping, lying naked under sun lamps together, Robin sneaking up on Batman in the shower, or relaxing in a rowboat together in a city park.
I'm going to guess the being naked under a sun lamp, but I could actually see them doing that story.
Oh, you're wrong. They have never been shown sharing a sleeping bag. They've woken up in bed together, lied naked under sun lamps, shared a rowboat in a city park, and Robin has even snuck up on Batman in the shower. Crisis averted, right?
And in Wonder Woman, it was because of the rampant lesbianism.
And constant bondage.
Actually, here's the weird thing. I've read Seduction of the Innocent, and he doesn't get into the bondage as much as you would think.
Maybe he liked it.
Well, if you read the early Wonder Woman stories, and you know about Frederick Wortham, you know why Wonder Woman had a lasso she tied everybody up with.
I know.
He was trying to make his lifestyle seem mainstream. He was polyamorous and deep into bondage. By the way, he also invented the lie detector. But the other thing, if you'll notice when you read those Batman stories of the 40s and 50s, how the art style changes so much, but all of them, every one of them, if you look at the credits, because Batman had credits, unlike most comics, they were all by Bob Kane.
Yep, give him the finger.
Do you know why Bob Kane, quote, did, unquote, all those comics?
I don't know why he claimed he did them.
No. Contractually, he made them.
Well, I didn't. That's
because
why I said I don't care what the contract says.
his family had lawyers, and he put together a great contract with DC that he owned the character, and DC could publish it and license it, blah, 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 but they had to pay him. And he was the one who would bring the art, and he would say, this is by me. Now, it's well known that he had many, many, many ghosts, to the point where one of the editors in the late 50s, every so often, just to tweak him, when he would turn in the pages, he would go, you need to fix this, and this needs to be redrawn. And Bob Kane would go, okay, I'll take him home and fix them. No, you don't have to do that. We've got a place right here with the drawing board. You can do it right here. We need them by the end of the... No, I can go home. Look, Bob, we need these by the end of the day. No, I'll take care of it. I'll just take them home and take care of it. So he would maintain the premise that he was drawing it. Meanwhile, everybody at DC knew it was Shelley Maldenoff and other people who were doing the actual drawing.
I got a question. Time to ask the Strode. Which comic book did Batman and Superman first meet?
It was for the World's Fair, wasn't it?
Actually, it's a trick question. They met on the Superman radio show first.
Well, yeah,
and
but you're talking comic.
Then they put it into the comics.
Now, one of the things, if you go back and look at the 40s World's Finest, you'll see Batman and Robin and Superman together doing stuff. They weren't in stories together till later. So, and then by the time we get to the late 50s.
But you were right. The 1936 New York's World Fair was the first time it featured Superman.
All right, 36?
No. Actually, strike that whole conversation. 1940s New York World Fair comics featured Superman, Batman, and Robin the first time they were together. 1939 featured just Superman, but without Batman and Robin, because Bill Finger and Bob Kane had not created them yet.
Right. So, by the time we get to the late 50s, Batman sales are not good. They're good enough to keep limping along, but they're not good. The Batman stories had kind of become much like Superman stories.
Whoa, wait.
You had Batwoman and Batgirl and Bathound and Batmite, and you had they would travel through time through hypnosis, and Batman would be in all these weird science fiction stories. And that is where the recording ends. And you're probably saying to yourself, did Cory screw up again? Did Cory mess this recording up again? Will this be like the 15th podcast in a row that Cory messed up again? No, it's not. And you know why I say it's not? Because it's not my internet that messed up. It's Joe's internet that messed up. Joe's internet went back to doing what it always used to do, and that is kind of cut out after we were going for a while. So I guess that means that we're done talking Batman? Of course it doesn't. It just means that you're going to get 2 Crazy Comics and Stories podcasts this week. Not only are you getting 2 Crazy Stories and Comics podcasts this week, the next one is the rest of us talking about Batman with our freaking and geeking and God knows what else. But you get 2 episodes of Solitaire Rose Radio. That's right, 2 episodes of Solitaire Rose Radio. I do an interview with the publisher, writer, artist, head poobah, big high lord muckety muck of Devil's Due Publishing, Josh Blaylock, who's got a Mercy Sparks omnibus Kickstarter he wants to push. He also talks the history of Devil's Due. He talks about how they were able to get the rights to G.I. Joe. He talks about the problems they had in 2008 that caused a whole bunch of furor about Devil's Due. He talks about their relationship with First Comics. And we get into the history of First Comics just a little bit. There'll be 2 episodes of that, because our interview, he said, I'll sit down, I'll talk the Kickstarter, and we'll talk for a half hour. 2 hours later, we decide, we'll wrap this up. We got all kinds of stuff coming up. Today, I was at the Holiday Geek Expo, which Dangerous Dan Moore puts together. I have been periscoping, I have been Instagramming, I have been Twittering, I have been posted on the Facebook, and we recorded. And guess what? Unlike Falcon, these recordings sound good. We are learning. We're doing better. You are going to get buried in podcasts. By the way, if you want to take part in a Crazy Comics and Stories podcast, you can. Just send us your stuff for Festivus. Well, how can I send you my stuff? How will you know what my grievances are? Well, that's easy. You know who's going to tell you about it and who helps sponsor this show? These guys, our sponsors. That's right. Solitaire Rose Productions has sponsors. And our first sponsor is the one who's been with us since day one, and that's DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best web host in the whole known universe, bar none. Go to DreamHost.com, enter the code CRAZY, get $20 off your first year. How amazing is that? Our second sponsor is the Dollar Shave Club. I get amazing razors delivered from the Dollar Shave Club just for a few bucks, and I always shave with a fresh blade. Does this make me a genius? Of course it does. Now, if you use the website shave.by/C19DC, those of us here at Solitaire Rose Productions will get to wet our beak a little. We get a little piece of that, and that's what ads are all about. Our other sponsor is Gray's. Gray's delivers great healthy snacks to you weekly, bi-weekly, once a month, however you'd like. You can choose the kind of snacks you want. They're all amazing. They're all healthy. They're all good. And your first and fifth boxes are free if you use the code CORYS3R5. We love to hear from you, our fans, our beloved fans. Without you, there's no us, because then we're just talking to ourselves, and Lord knows I spent long enough doing that. You can email us at our brand spanking new email address at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. You can call us and leave a message, and we will play your message on the air. And that number is 952-856-0519. We have us a web page that is at Crazy Comics, KRAYZCOMIX.solitairerose.com. Over there you'll see some of our new sponsors and our brand spanking new Amazon store, so go check that out. We are also on the Facebooks. We're all over the place. We want to hear from you. If you would like to advertise on Crazy Comics and Stories or any of the other Solitaire Rose podcasts, go ahead, email us at solitaireroseproduction@gmail.com. Subject, advertising. If you have a comic you would like us to review, it's the same Gmail account. Just instead of advertising, put review. Or if you'd like to be a guest on Solitaire Rose Radio or Solo Joe, go ahead and email us at that same address with the subject line guest. These here podcasts come to you free because of our sponsors, so please go visit them. Crazy Comics and Stories comes to you free every week. Every Monday we've got a new episode, and usually we have it up by Sunday night. It's also available on the YouTubes. It's available on the Pocket Cast, on the Stitcher, on the iTunes. It's all over the place. So go ahead, subscribe, tell your friends, tell every human being you know about Crazy Comics and Stories. Solitaire Rose Radio is a little more infrequent. It comes out about every 2 weeks. And Solitaire Rose Novelcast comes out every other Thursday. So get ready. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is growing. Join us. Be on board. Become a fan. Become a listener. Thank you. There you go. That's how to contact us. That's how to get in touch with us. That's how to let us know what your grievances are. We got more Batman coming. We got Devil's Due coming. We got all kinds of stuff coming. We got Festivus coming. We got more podcasts coming. And next year, we got all kinds of announcements. Next year is, you thought this year was big? You thought this year was big? You ain't seen nothing yet, baby. We're getting bigger. We're getting stronger. And we're bringing you along for the ride. Join us later this week for more Crazy Comics and Stories. Now, hit my music.